The wooden cabin door slammed open, and Rebecca stormed out, the HOA president's angry shouts echoing behind her. Clutching the eviction notice, she marched across the gravel driveway, jaw clenched. Her gaze fell on the pristine lake that bordered her property, and she felt a surge of defiance. "This isn't over," she muttered, glaring back at the clubhouse. For years, the homeowners association had tried to strong-arm her, control every aspect of her life. But now she was done playing by their rules. Returning to the cabin, Rebecca grabbed her laptop and began furiously typing. As the sun dipped below the trees, she unearthed old property records, maps, and surveys. Each document painted a clearer picture. The lake was hers, and the parking lot the HOA claimed as their own was on her land as well. A triumphant smile spread across her face. This was her chance to fight back, to reclaim what was rightfully hers. She placed a call to her lawyer, outlining the situation in rapid, determined tones. "We're going to bury them in litigation," she declared. "I want to see the look on their faces when they realize they've been trespassing on my property all this time." The lawyer's voice held a note of caution. "Rebecca, this is a bold move. The HOA has deep pockets and influential connections. They won't go down without a fight." "I don't care," she shot back. "I'm tired of being pushed around. It's time I took a stand." Ending the call, Rebecca poured herself a glass of wine and gazed out at the tranquil lake. Tomorrow, she would serve the HOA with a cease and desist order, demanding they vacate her land immediately. She imagined the looks of shock and outrage on their faces, the desperate scramble to cover their tracks. "You've messed with the wrong person," she murmured, taking a sip. This was her home, her sanctuary, and she refused to let the HOA take it away. No matter what it took, she would fight to the bitter end. The next morning, Rebecca marched into the HOA clubhouse, chin held high. She approached the reception desk, where the president, Mary, sat behind a mahogany counter, eyeing her with thinly veiled contempt. "I have a cease and desist order for you," Rebecca announced, slamming the document onto the desk. "You and your association are trespassing on my property. I want you off my land immediately." Mary's eyes widened, and her face flushed with anger. "This is preposterous. That land and that lake have belonged to the HOA for decades. You have no right to make such outrageous claims." "Actually, I do." Rebecca leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. "I've done my research, and the property records clearly show that the lake and the parking lot are mine. You've been illegally using my land all this time." The HOA president opened her mouth, then closed it again, struggling to find the words. Finally, she sputtered, "This is an outrage. You can't just waltz in here and make these kinds of demands. We'll see you in court." "That's exactly where I want this to go," Rebecca replied, a steely glint in her eye. "I'm prepared to fight you every step of the way. You've pushed me around for far too long, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." Turning on her heel, Rebecca strode out of the clubhouse, feeling a surge of adrenaline. The HOA had always acted like they were untouchable, but now the tables had turned. She was ready to take them on, no matter the cost. As she walked back to her cabin, Rebecca couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. For once, she had the upper hand, and she was determined to use it to her advantage. The HOA had met their match, and she was ready to show them just how formidable she could be. The next few days were a whirlwind of legal activity. Rebecca's lawyer, a sharp-witted woman named Samantha, filed a series of motions and injunctions, each one designed to put the HOA on the defensive. "They're scrambling to cover their tracks," Samantha reported, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Their records are a mess, and they're struggling to justify their claims to the property." Rebecca nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Good. I want them to feel the full weight of their misdeeds. They've abused their power for far too long, and it's time they were held accountable." As the legal battle unfolded, the residents of the community began to take notice. Whispers and rumors spread like wildfire, with some siding with the HOA and others rallying behind Rebecca. She's just a troublemaker, trying to stir up drama. One neighbor, a middle-aged woman named Janet, huffed to a group of her friends. The HOA has always acted in the best interests of the community. Across town, a young couple, Sarah and Tom, discussed the situation over dinner. "I can't believe the HOA would do something like that," Sarah said, shaking her head. "If what Rebecca is saying is true, then they've been taking advantage of her for years." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "It makes you wonder what else they've been up to. Maybe it's time the community started asking some hard questions." As the conflict escalated, the local news media caught wind of the story. Reporters began showing up at the HOA clubhouse, seeking interviews and trying to uncover the truth. The HOA, once the untouchable rulers of the community, now found themselves on the defensive, their every move scrutinized by the public eye. For Rebecca, the growing attention only fueled her determination. She knew that this was her chance to expose the HOA's misdeeds and reclaim what was rightfully hers. The stakes had never been higher, and she was more than ready to fight. As the legal battle raged on, Rebecca's relationship with the HOA president, Mary, only grew more hostile. The two women would often cross paths in the community, exchanging icy glares and thinly veiled barbs. "You're just wasting your time and money, you know," Mary sneered one day as they passed each other on the sidewalk. "The HOA has the best lawyers in the state. You don't stand a chance." Rebecca refused to be cowed. "We'll see about that," she retorted, her eyes narrowing. "I'm not going to back down, no matter what you or your cronies try to do." The tension in the community was palpable, with neighbors taking sides and tempers flaring. Some supported the HOA, believing that they were acting in the best interests of the community, while others rallied behind Rebecca, seeing her as a champion against the abuse of power. One day, as Rebecca was walking back to her cabin, she noticed a strange van parked near her property. Curiosity getting the better of her, she approached the vehicle, peering inside. To her shock, she saw a man hunched over a laptop, seemingly monitoring the area. Fury rising within her, Rebecca stormed over to the van and banged on the window. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her voice trembling with rage. The man startled, quickly closing the laptop and fumbling with the door handle. "I was just, taking a break," he stammered, his face pale. "Like hell you were," Rebecca spat. "You're spying on me, aren't you? Well, let me make one thing clear. This is my property, and I won't tolerate any of your underhanded tactics." The man cowered, mumbling apologies as he hastily started the van and sped away. Rebecca watched him go, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that the HOA was getting desperate, but she never imagined they would stoop to such despicable measures. Determined to uncover the truth, Rebecca returned to her cabin and began searching for any evidence that the HOA might have been involved in the incident. She was more convinced than ever that she was on the right track, and she was prepared to do whatever it took to bring the HOA down. In the days that followed, Rebecca's suspicions about the HOA's involvement in the spying incident only grew stronger. She combed through surveillance footage from around her property, piecing together a troubling pattern of activity. "It's clear they've been monitoring me for weeks, if not months," she told Samantha, her lawyer. "They're getting desperate, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to intimidate me." Samantha's brow furrowed, her expression grave. "This is a serious escalation, Rebecca. We need to take this to the authorities and make sure they understand the gravity of the situation." Together, they filed a formal complaint with the local police department, detailing the HOA's suspected involvement in the spying incident. The officers promised to investigate the matter thoroughly, but Rebecca couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease. "What if they have friends in the department?" she fretted. "What if they manage to bury this whole thing?" Samantha placed a reassuring hand on her client's shoulder. "We've got a strong case, Rebecca. The evidence is on our side, and the more the public becomes aware of this, the harder it will be for the HOA to cover their tracks. True to Samantha's words, the story continued to make headlines, with local news outlets scrambling to uncover the latest developments. The community was polarized, with some residents rallying behind the HOA and others voicing their support for Rebecca. One evening, as Rebecca was preparing dinner, her phone rang. It was Mary, the HOA president, and her voice was trembling with barely contained fury. "This has gone on long enough, Rebecca," she hissed. "You need to drop this whole thing and walk away, or else you're going to regret it." Rebecca felt a chill run down her spine, but she refused to be intimidated. "Is that a threat, Mary?" she asked, her voice calm and steady. "Take it however you want," the president spat. "But I'm warning you, you're playing a dangerous game, and you're not going to like how it ends." Ending the call, Rebecca stared at the phone, her mind racing. She knew that the HOA was desperate, but she never imagined they would stoop to outright threats. As the weight of the situation sank in, she realized that the stakes had just been raised. The fight was no longer just about the property. It was a battle for her very safety. Despite the HOA's threatening phone call, Rebecca refused to back down. If anything, the president's words had only strengthened her resolve. She was more determined than ever to expose the association's misdeeds and reclaim what was rightfully hers. Samantha, her lawyer, was equally unfazed by the HOA's intimidation tactics. "We're on the right side of this, Rebecca," she assured her client. "The more they resort to these kinds of tactics, the more it will undermine their case in court." Together, they decided to take their fight to the community, organizing a town hall meeting to address the growing controversy. The event was a roaring success, with residents packing the local community center to hear both sides of the argument. Rebecca stood at the podium, her voice steady and unwavering as she presented the evidence she had uncovered. For years, the HOA has been overstepping their bounds, using their power to bully and intimidate the very people they're supposed to serve, she declared. "Well, no more. It's time for us to stand up and take back control of our community." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, and Rebecca felt a surge of pride. She knew that she was speaking for many of her neighbors, who had long been frustrated by the HOA's heavy-handed tactics. But not everyone was on her side. Mary, the HOA president, stood up from her seat in the audience, her face flushed with anger. "This is all a load of nonsense," she shouted. "Rebecca is nothing but a troublemaker, trying to stir up drama for her own benefit." The crowd erupted in a chorus of boos, and Rebecca felt a grim satisfaction. "If you have nothing to hide, Mary, then why are you so afraid?" She fired back. "The records speak for themselves. This land belongs to me, and you've been illegally using it for years." The HOA president sputtered, unable to formulate a coherent response. Sensing her defeat, she stormed out of the meeting, with her supporters trailing behind her. As the room erupted in cheers, Rebecca knew that she had won a significant victory. The community was on her side, and the HOA was on the defensive. But she also knew that the fight was far from over. In the aftermath of the town hall meeting, the tension in the community only continued to escalate. The HOA, sensing that the tide was turning against them, launched a full-scale media blitz, painting Rebecca as a selfish, attention-seeking troublemaker. "She's just trying to stir up drama and make a name for herself," Mary told a local news reporter, her eyes narrowed in disdain. "The HOA has always acted in the best interests of the community, and we won't let one disgruntled resident jeopardize that." But Rebecca refused to be cowed. She countered the HOA's claims with a steady stream of evidence, meticulously documenting their illegal activities and their attempts to intimidate her. And as the public scrutiny intensified, the association's position began to crumble. "They're clearly on the defensive now," Samantha observed, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. "The more they try to discredit you, the more it backfires." Indeed, the community seemed to be rallying more and more behind Rebecca. Neighbors who had once been skeptical of her claims now approached her with offers of support, eager to help in any way they could. One day, as Rebecca was walking back to her cabin, she noticed a small group of people gathered on the edge of her property. Curious, she approached them, only to discover that they were planting a row of trees along the boundary line. "What's going on here?" she asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. A young woman turned to her, a warm smile on her face. "We thought you could use a little extra support," she explained. "The HOA has been encroaching under land for years, and we're not going to let them get away with it anymore." Rebecca felt a lump form in her throat, overwhelmed by the gesture of solidarity. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "This means more to me than you know." As the group continued their work, Rebecca couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. The HOA's power was slipping, and the community was rallying behind her. It was a sign that the tide was turning, and that her fight was not in vain. With renewed determination, she returned to her cabin, already planning her next move. The end game was in sight, and she was more ready than ever to take the HOA down. As the legal battle raged on, the stakes only continued to rise. The HOA, realizing that they were on the verge of losing, pulled out all the stops in a desperate attempt to regain the upper hand. They filed a flurry of motions and counterclaims, each one more outrageous than the last. They accused Rebecca of everything from trespassing to vandalism, hoping to discredit her in the eyes of the court. But Samantha, Rebecca's lawyer, was more than ready for their tactics. She systematically dismantled each of the HOA's claims, using the overwhelming evidence that Rebecca had gathered to prove their wrongdoing. "They're grasping at straws now," Samantha told her client, a triumphant smile on her face. "The judge can see right through their lies and intimidation tactics." Indeed, as the case progressed, the tide began to turn in Rebecca's favor. The judge, clearly swayed by the strength of the evidence, issued a series of rulings that chipped away at the HOA's position. Finally, in a dramatic conclusion to the proceedings, the judge delivered his final verdict. "The court has determined that the property in question, including the lake and the parking lot, rightfully belongs to the plaintiff, Ms. Rebecca Wilkins," he declared. "The Homeowners Association is hereby ordered to vacate the premises immediately and cease all further trespassing and harassment." The courtroom erupted in cheers, and Rebecca felt a wave of relief wash over her. Years of fighting, of standing up to the HOA's bullying tactics, had finally paid off. She had won, and the community had rallied behind her. As she walked out of the courthouse, her head held high, Rebecca couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was more than just a victory for her. It was a victory for the entire community, a testament to the power of standing up against injustice, no matter the cost. "It's over," she whispered to herself, a smile spreading across her face. "I did it." And as she gazed out at the tranquil lake that bordered her property, she knew that her fight had been worth it. This was her home, her sanctuary, and she had fought tooth and nail to keep it that way.